"Chief Matthews, take your hand off that gun right now, or the badge you built your whole life around dies in this courtroom." That was the second the cameras caught it. A decorated police chief, a man with nearly 3 decades of power behind him, let his hand slide toward the loaded weapon on his hip inside Judge Judy's courtroom. 28 years in uniform, 54,000 arrests, a badge polished like a crown, a reputation built on fear, obedience, and control. And then Judge Judy spoke 8 words that ripped all of it away. But here's the part nobody in that courtroom was ready for. The gun was not the real scandal. The gun was only the crack in the wall. What came pouring out over the next 47 minutes would ignite one of the biggest federal corruption cases California had ever seen. It would expose a criminal network operating from inside a police department. It would reveal a protection racket hidden behind uniforms, patrol cars, warrants, and courtrooms. And it would send a man who believed he was untouchable to federal prison for 25 years. This was not just another courtroom confrontation. This was the day one sentence brought down a predator who had spent 15 years destroying innocent people. His name was Robert Matthews, Polish chief, 6'3", 240 pounds, a man made of muscle, ego, and entitlement. The kind of man who entered a room and expected everyone else to shrink. He commanded 150 officers across 6 precincts. The mayor answered his calls. Prosecutors stepped carefully around him. Local judges knew his name. Business owners feared seeing his cruiser near their doors. And for 15 years, Matthews had built the perfect machine. A criminal machine wearing a badge. He extorted businesses. He threatened civilians. He planted evidence. He ruined reputations. He crushed anyone who refused to bend. By the time the truth began to surface, there were 47 documented victims, more than $1 million stolen, businesses bankrupted, families torn apart, and lives permanently scarred. All because Robert Matthews believed the badge did not make him accountable. He believed it made him a king. And across from him that day sat Marcus Rivera, 38 years old, Marine Corps veteran, Purple Heart recipient, father of 2 little girls. A man who had survived 2 deployments in Afghanistan, only to come home and have his entire life demolished by the very police chief sworn to protect his community. Matthews framed him. He planted $25,000 worth of stolen car parts inside Marcus's auto repair shop. He had Marcus arrested in front of his daughters at 6 o'clock in the morning. He destroyed the business Marcus had built with his own hands. He pushed his family toward bankruptcy. He forced Marcus to spend $98,000 fighting charges that should have never existed. And why? Because Marcus refused to repair the police chief's car for free. That was it. One honest answer. One refusal to bow. One man saying, "I charge everyone the same." And Robert Matthews decided that Marcus Rivera needed to be erased. But what Matthews did not understand, what his arrogance would never let him imagine, was that Judge Judy had not walked into that courtroom blind. She had spent 3 days preparing for him. She had FBI reports, internal affairs records, bank documents showing $850,000 in unexplained money, security footage, text messages, testimony from 15 other people whose lives had been shattered by Matthews and his officers. She was not just prepared, she was waiting for the kind of man she had seen too many times before. A man who mistook fear for respect. A man who thought authority meant immunity. A man who believed ordinary people could never fight back. So when Robert Matthews stepped into that courtroom in full dress uniform, medals shining under the lights, weapon loaded on his hip, smirk sitting on his face like the whole proceeding was beneath him, he had no clue he had just walked straight into the end of his own empire. The moment came 32 minutes into the hearing. Judge Judy had already cornered him. She had played the footage of his officers entering Marcus's shop in the middle of the night. She had exposed the timeline. She had laid out the pattern. She had shown how business owners who refused to cooperate somehow ended up facing inspections, police raids, planted evidence, or fake violations. She listed his hidden wealth, 3 rental homes, a vacation property, luxury vehicles, a $75,000 boat, all purchased on a salary that could not explain any of it. Matthews was trapped, exposed, humiliated. And then, almost by instinct, his hand moved not all the way to a draw, not enough for him to pretend he was reaching for something else, just down to the gun. His fingers rested near the grip. A silent message every officer in that room understood. I'm armed. I still have power. Do not push me. The courtroom went dead silent. Marcus's wife clutched his arm. The bailiff shifted instantly, one hand moving toward his own weapon. Someone in the gallery gasped. The cameras caught every second. And Judge Judy, 5'1", 78 years old, unmoved, unshaken, fearless as steel, stared directly at the police chief whose hand was on a loaded firearm and said the words that ended him. Chief Matthews, you just destroyed your own career, but those 8 words were only the beginning. Because in the 6 minutes that followed, Judge Judy revealed enough evidence to send federal agents to Matthews' house within 48 hours. They would find $340,000 in cash hidden in his garage. They would find documents tying him to organized crime. They would uncover a 7-year protection racket. They would uncover a department poisoned from the inside out. 28 years of power collapsed because of 28 seconds of arrogance. Before I take you inside the courtroom and show you how Judge Judy dismantled this man piece by piece, you need to understand where all of this started. It began 14 months earlier on a sunny Tuesday afternoon in Riverside County, California. Marcus Rivera was working inside Rivera Auto Services, the small shop he had opened after leaving the Marines. It was not fancy, it was not glamorous, but it was honest. Every tool on the wall had been paid for with sweat. Every customer review had been earned. Every late night, every skipped weekend, every repair job mattered, because that shop was not just a business. It was his family's future. At 3:45 p.m., a black Cadillac Escalade rolled into the lot, custom rims, tinted windows, expensive and loud without making a sound. Chief Robert Matthews stepped out wearing his uniform like armor. He did not call ahead. He did not book an appointment. He did not wait like everyone else. He parked in the customer area and walked in like ownership had already been transferred to him. Marcus was underneath a Honda Accord finishing an oil change for Mrs. Chin, an elderly customer who had trusted him for years. When the door chime rang, he slid out from under the car, wiped grease from his hands, and looked up. 4 gold stars on the collar, medals across the chest. A face that did not ask. It demanded Matthews did not introduce himself. He did not shake Marcus's hand. He simply said, "I need this done today." Marcus stood slowly. He was respectful, but the shop was packed. 3 cars were already in the bays. 2 more were waiting outside. His schedule was full until Thursday. So he answered the way he would answer any other customer. "Sir, I'm booked solid today. I can put you down for later this week." That was the first insult, not because Marcus was rude, but because Marcus treated him like a normal man. Matthew's smile disappeared. His voice changed. It lowered into that polished, threatening tone powerful men use when they want to pretend they are still being polite. "I don't think you heard me. I need an oil change, tire rotation, and full inspection today. Police courtesy. Police courtesy." That was the phrase, not a discount, not a favor, a demand. Marcus had faced armed men in Kandahar. He had felt shrapnel tear into his shoulder. Fear was not new to him, but this was different. This was not an enemy across a battlefield. This was the police chief in his own community asking him to surrender his principles. Marcus built his shop on one rule. Everyone gets treated the same, rich or poor, officer or civilian, friend or stranger. Everyone pays. Everyone waits. Everyone gets honest work. So he took a breath and said the sentence that changed his life. "Sir, I charge everyone the same price." Matthews stepped closer, too close. Close enough that Marcus could smell the expensive cologne. Close enough to feel the pressure of the badge before a single law had been broken. "Everyone the same?" Matthews asked. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus did not answer. "I'm the police chief of this county. I have 150 officers under me. We protect businesses like yours. We keep criminals away. We make sure shops like this can stay open." Then he paused, just long enough for the threat to settle. That sounds like a relationship where appreciation would be expected. And Marcus understood. This was not about a car. This was a shakedown. "Chief Matthews," Marcus said carefully, "I respect law enforcement. My brother is a police officer in San Diego. But this is an honest business. I don't do free work. If you want to book an appointment and pay the regular rate, I'll be glad to help you." Thursday at 9, the garage seemed to go cold. Matthews's jaw tightened. A muscle in his neck twitched. His hand flexed into a fist, the same hand that would later drop toward his gun in Judge Judy's courtroom. Then he leaned in until his face was inches from Marcus's. "You sure that's wise?" he whispered. "You really want to choose that road?" Marcus's hands trembled, but his voice did not. "I'm just trying to run my shop with integrity." Matthews stared at him. 5 seconds, 10 lifetimes. Then he smiled. And Marcus would later tell people that smile frightened him more than anything he had seen in combat, because this was not the smile of a man making a threat he might forget. This was the smile of a man who had already decided your punishment. Integrity? Matthews repeated, almost amused. All right, Mr. Rivera, let's see how much that integrity costs you. He turned toward the door, then stopped with one hand on the handle. Nice shop, he said. Family business. Kids too, right? I saw the pictures on your desk. Pretty daughters. Marcus froze. Dangerous area, Matthews continued. You never know what can happen. Then he walked out. The door chimed, the Escalade left the lot. And Marcus stood in the middle of his shop, greasy rag in hand, knowing he had just made an enemy of the most powerful man in the county. What he did not know was that Matthews was already in the parking lot, already pulling out his phone, already messaging the officers most loyal to him. The text was only 3 words. Rivera Auto Services. Charlotte. Within 7 days, the harassment began. Health inspectors appeared without warning. Fire marshals followed. Police cruisers parked outside his business with their engines running. Customers slowed down, saw the patrol cars, and drove away. Anonymous complaints appeared out of nowhere. Citations were written for violations nobody had ever mentioned before. His revenue fell by 60% in 1 month, then 75%, then nearly nothing. Employees began quitting because they were scared. His wife, Elena, started having panic attacks. His daughters, Isabella and Sophia, began asking why police were always outside Daddy's shop. Marcus realized too late that refusing Robert Matthews did not just cost him a customer, it put a target on his family. But Matthews made one mistake, a mistake that would destroy him in front of millions. He underestimated Marcus Rivera. Because Marcus had learned something overseas that Matthews never had. Courage is not just standing tall. Sometimes courage is recording everything while your hands are shaking. For 97 days, Marcus lived under pressure. Every morning brought another inspection. Every evening brought another rumor, another threat, another reminder that the police chief had power everywhere. A health inspector cited him for safety issues that did not exist. A fire marshal fined him for an exit that had been clear for years. Police cars sat outside the shop for hours. Officers stared down customers. People who loved Marcus stopped coming because they were afraid of becoming part of the problem. The shop that once handled 12 cars a day dropped to 3, then 1, then silence. So Marcus bought cameras. 8 of them, inside, outside, 24-hour recording, cloud backup, motion alerts. He spent $1,500 he did not have. Money that should have gone toward bills, money that should have gone toward groceries. But he installed them because he knew he was under attack. And when you are under attack, evidence becomes survival. Then came March 17, 2:47 in the morning. Marcus's phone lit up beside his bed, motion detected. He opened the feed, half asleep at first, then wide awake. 2 men were moving toward the back entrance of his shop, not in uniform, hoodies, civilian clothes. But Marcus knew their faces immediately. Officer Daniels, Officer Kruger Matthews's closest men, the same officers who had been parked outside the shop for weeks. They carried cardboard boxes, large ones. Marcus watched them pick the lock. He watched them slip inside his business. His heart pounded so hard he thought Elena would wake up from the sound of it. He wanted to call 911. But who do you call when the people breaking into your business are police officers? So he recorded, he watched, he saved. 12 minutes later, they came out. The boxes were empty. They checked the street, moved quickly to an unmarked car parked 2 blocks away, and disappeared into the night. Marcus saved the footage 3 different ways: cloud storage, laptop, DVD backup. He did not know what they had planted, but he knew something terrible was coming. 4 hours later, it arrived, 6 o'clock in the morning. A battering ram slammed into the front door of Marcus's home. Polish shouted. His daughters screamed from their bedroom. Elena grabbed the girls, crying, confused, terrified. Marcus was shoved against the wall in his own living room with his hands raised. 12 officers stormed through the house in tactical gear. 12 officers for 1 mechanic, 1 father, 1 veteran. Chief Matthews was not there, of course. He was too careful for that. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Briggs, led the raid instead. And the smile on Briggs's face told Marcus everything he needed to know. This was not law enforcement. This was revenge. They found exactly what had been planted: $25,000 in stolen catalytic converters. Valuable, easy to allege, difficult for an ordinary man to disprove. Hidden in the back room of the shop where Marcus stored spare parts, perfectly placed, perfectly timed, perfectly fake. You're under arrest, they told him. Receiving stolen property. operating a chop shop, criminal conspiracy. The cuffs closed around his wrists, the same wrists that had held a rifle in service of his country, the same hands that had built his business bolt by bolt, the same arms that carried his daughters to bed when they were small. Through the front window, Marcus saw the neighbors watching, phones out, recording. And worst of all, he saw Isabella and Sophia pressed against the glass, their faces wet with tears, watching their father get put into a police car. Then the media arrived, within 30 minutes, because Matthews had made sure they would. The headline practically wrote itself. Decorated police chief busts veteran theft ring. Marcus's mugshot appeared on television before he ever got a chance to defend himself. His shop appeared in news clips. His reputation was shattered in a single morning. People who had trusted him for years suddenly wondered whether they had been wrong. Bail was set at $100,000. Marcus had to mortgage his house, the house where his daughters learned to walk, the house where he and Elena celebrated anniversaries, the house that represented every sacrifice they had made, all of it placed at risk because a corrupt police chief could not handle being told no. But Marcus still had the footage. And 8 months later, that footage reached the right person. Jessica Torres was 29 years old, a young public defender, new enough to still believe the system could be forced to work, brave enough not to be intimidated by a police chief with friends in every corner of the courthouse. She noticed something strange. In 6 months, she had seen 3 cases involving small business owners arrested by Matthews' unit. Different people, different businesses. But the pattern was too similar. A business owner refused to cooperate. A complaint appeared. An inspection happened. Evidence was found. A life was destroyed. Jessica started digging. Then she found Marcus. Then she found the video. Then she found others. And then she discovered that Judge Judy's producers were looking for a case that could expose abuse of authority in a way people would never forget. And now we reached the courtroom. The doors opened at 9:15 a.m. Pacific time. The cameras were rolling. The gallery was full. 23 of Marcus's supporters had driven for hours to be there. Former customers, friends, veterans, people who knew what had been done to him and wanted to see one man finally stand against the machine. Then Robert Matthews entered, full dress uniform, medals shining, duress of his weapon on his hip, walking toward the defendant's table like the courtroom belonged to him. He glanced at Marcus once, just once. A smirk touched his mouth. It was the look of a man saying, "You really think this changes anything?" But what Matthews did not see was Judge Judy watching him from the bench. Her eyes narrowed, her face set. A 200-page file sat open in front of her, financial records, witness statements, Tinel reports, photos, docs, text messages, evidence. And hidden beneath the surface, a federal investigation already moving toward him like a storm he could not outrun. Judge Judy did not waste time. She looked at Marcus. Then she looked at Matthews. "Mr. Rivera," she began, "you are suing Chief Matthews for $250,000. You claim false arrest, planted evidence, malicious prosecution, and destruction of your business. You say this started because you refused to give him free repairs." Then she turned. "Chief Matthews, you claim Mr. Rivera was running a chop shop and that your department acted lawfully. Fine. Let's find out who came here with the truth." Matthews leaned back, calm and smug. "Your Honor, with respect, I have been in law enforcement for 28 years. I have made more than 54,000 arrests. This is simply another criminal trying to blame police because he got caught." Judge Judy lifted one eyebrow, only slightly, but anyone who had watched her long enough knew that look meant trouble. "Chief Matthews, I did not ask for your resume. I asked about this case." The room tightened, she continued. "Did you visit Mr. Rivera's auto shop 14 months ago and request free services?" Matthews shifted barely, but it was the first crack. "I may have stopped by. I visit businesses in the community all the time. That is not what I asked." "Did you request free repairs?" "Police officers often receive courtesy discounts from local businesses," Matthews said. "That is not unusual. It builds relationships." Judge Judy's voice sharpened. "Yes or no?" Silence. 3 seconds. Then Matthews answered. "Yes. I asked for courtesy service." "And he refused?" "Yes." Judge Judy nodded slowly. "And within 7 days, inspectors began showing up, complaints appeared, and police cruisers started parking outside his business. Coincidence? If his shop had violations, his shop had a perfect inspection record for 6 years." Judge Judy cut in. "Until he said no to you." She opened a folder. "I have the reports. Paint color, slight floor grading, a fire extinguisher mounted 2 inches lower than regulation. The inspector himself admitted under oath these are not violations normally enforced unless someone specifically complains. Her eyes locked onto him. Who complained? Matthews's jaw flexed. I don't recall. You don't recall. She let the words sit there. Then she said, let's move to March 17 at 2:47 a.m. She signaled to the bailiff. A screen lowered. The footage appeared clear to painted. 2 men in hoodies at the rear door of Rivera Auto Services, picking the lock, entering with boxes, leaving 12 minutes later without them. The courtroom gasped. Matthews's face changed. The color drained slowly, like someone had opened a valve. Mr. Rivera, Judge Judy said, do you recognize these men? Marcus stood. His voice shook, but it held. Yes, Your Honor. Officer Michael Daniels and Officer Frank Kruger. They worked directly under Chief Matthews. Matthews shot up from his chair. That video is fake. The gallery stirred, edited, Matthews snapped, manipulated. Anyone can create anything with computers now. Deep fakes, CGI. This is a setup. Sit down, Chief Matthews. No, this is fraud. You are allowing a criminal to present doctored evidence in court. Judge Judy's voice dropped generously low. The video was authenticated by 3 independent forensic experts. The metadata matches the original recording. Cell tower records place both officers in that area. GPS data from their department vehicle places them 2 blocks away at the exact same time. Matthews froze. So unless you are claiming Mr. Rivera conspired with forensic analysts, phone companies, and satellites, I suggest you sit down. Matthews lowered himself into the chair. His hands were shaking now. Even if officers made a mistake, he said, mistakes happen in police work. Judge Judy leaned forward. A mistake? She opened another folder. Deshaun Williams, 2019. Cocaine found in his car after he refused to pay one of your officers. He lost his barbershop and spent 18 months in prison. She turned a page. Rosa Martinez, 2020. Health violations after she reported officer harassment. Her restaurant closed. $40,000 in debt. Another page. Should I keep going? Because I have 15 victims in this room. All business owners, all targeted after refusing your demands, all destroyed by suspicious evidence, sudden violations, or police pressure. Matthews's face turned red. This is a witch hunt, he barked. You brought these people here to ambush me. This is not a hearing. This is a setup. Watch your language in my courtroom. I don't take orders from television judges. The room went silent. Matthews stepped forward from the defense table. You have no authority over me. You are not a real judge. You are a performer. The bailiff moved instantly. Sir, step back. And then it happened. Matthews's hand dropped straight to his gun, not drawn, not raised, but there, fingers touching the grip, the kind of threat that does not need words. The courtroom froze. Marcus felt Elena grab his arm. The bailiff's hand moved to his own weapon. The audience seemed to stop breathing. Every camera lens caught the moment. Judge Judy did not move. She did not flinch. She stared at him like fear had never been a language she understood. Chief Matthews, she said, remove your hand from that weapon now. Matthews looked down at his own hand. As if he had only just realized what he had done, the weight of it hit him at once. Television cameras, a courtroom, a judge, his hand on a loaded weapon. Years of intimidation had finally betrayed him. He lifted both hands slowly. His face went pale. Judge Judy stood, and then came the sentence that would be replayed everywhere. Chief Matthews, you just destroyed your own career. His knees nearly gave out. He gripped the table. Those words landed harder than any verdict, because he knew. Everyone knew. The badge, the pension, the command, the power, the legend he built around himself. It was all collapsing in real time. But Judge Judy was not done, not even close. Bailiff, she said, contact the FBI. Matthews looked up sharply. Yes, Chief Matthews. She continued, I know about the federal investigation. 18 months of wiretaps, financial tracking, cooperating witnesses and officers from your own department making deals to testify. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Your closest allies have already turned on you, she said, and what you just did on camera may be the cleanest piece of evidence they receive. Matthews lowered his head into his hands, shoulders shaking. Judge Judy's voice remained cold. 28 years, Chief Matthews. And you threw all of it away because you could not tolerate accountability. She lifted her gavel but did not strike it yet. She wanted him to hear every word. Mr. Rivera, I am awarding you the full $250,000 for false arrest, malicious prosecution, and destruction of your business. Marcus closed his eyes. Elena began crying. But we are not finished, Judge Judy said. She opened the larger file in front of her. I am adding $100,000 in punitive damages for the deliberate, calculated harassment carried out against you. She turned another page. And $50,000 for emotional distress caused to your family because your daughters watched their father dragged away in handcuffs for a crime he did not commit. Marcus covered his mouth. Total judgment for Mr. Rivera, $400,000. Then she's looked back at Matthews. And I am ordering an additional $1.2 million to be distributed among the 15 other victims present in this courtroom. Every business owner you intimidated, every family you crushed, every person who suffered because they refused to kneel to your corruption. Matthews's attorney jumped up. Your Honor, that is $1.6 million. That is excessive. We will appeal. Judge Judy did not blink. Appeal whatever you like. The judgment stands. And what I find interesting about that number is this. $1.6 million is nearly the exact value of Chief Matthews' unexplained assets. She began listing them. 3 rental properties, a vacation home in Tahoe, 2 luxury vehicles, a boat, all purchased with money that did not come from honest police work. Her voice sharpened. That is not excessive. That is mathematics. The gallery erupted in gasps. Marcus broke down. Elena held him as he cried. Judge Judy continued. Chief Matthews, I am also ordering that the footage from this hearing, especially your movement toward that weapon, be sent to the FBI field office, the Department of Justice, the State Attorney General, your mayor, and every relevant news outlet. Matthews tried to speak. Nothing came out but a broken sound. You wore that badge like a costume, Judge Judy said. You carried that gun like permission to terrorize people. You disgraced every honest officer who puts on a uniform and serves with integrity. And you will not be remembered for 28 years of service. You will be remembered for 28 seconds of arrogance. Then she turned to Marcus, and her tone changed. Softer now, human. Mr. Rivera, you served your country with honor. You built a business with honesty. And when corruption came to your door dressed as authority, you did not surrender your integrity. Marcus stood slowly, tears in his eyes. Thank you. Your Honor, he said. You saved my family. Judge Judy shook her head. No, Mr. Rivera, you saved your family. You documented the truth. You protected the evidence. Truth matters, but truth needs proof. You had both. Then she looked one final time at Robert Matthews, the man who had entered that courtroom like a king and now sat there like a ruined shell. Get out of my courtroom, she said. You're done. The gavel struck, bam. Final domicile over. Within 1 hour, the clip had 2 million views. Within 6 hours, 20 million. By the end of the day, 50 million people had watched the moment Chief Robert Matthews reached toward his gun and Judge Judy ended his career with one sentence. The hashtags exploded. Police chief down, Judge Judy, Justice Matthews destroyed. News stations ran the footage on repeat. Legal analysts called it one of the most devastating courtroom moments ever broadcast. Late-night hosts replayed it. Former officers condemned him publicly. Victims who had been silent for years began speaking, and 48 hours later, federal agents came for him. They raided Matthews' home. Inside the garage, they found $340,000 in cash. They found documents connecting him to organized crime. They found records of a protection racket spanning 7 years. They found evidence tied to 47 victims. And this time, Robert Matthews did not have a uniform. No medals, no polished badge. No officers standing behind him. Just handcuffs, just cameras, just the same public humiliation he had forced onto so many innocent people. The charges came fast: racketeering, extortion, evidence tampering, conspiracy. Assault connected to the weapon incident, 34 federal counts. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Victim after victim took the stand. Business owners, families, former officers, people Matthews had threatened, framed, or financially destroyed. Then his own men testified against him. Officer Daniels, Officer Kruger, Lieutenant Briggs, the same people he had trusted to protect his secrets, became the voices that buried him. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes, guilty all counts at sentencing. The judge gave him 25 years in federal prison, no parole. By the time he could even hope to walk free, he would be 77 years old. The man who thought the law belonged to him was swallowed by it. And Marcus Rivera? His life changed too. But in the opposite direction, a GoFundMe raised $380,000. Former customers returned. New customers came from across the county. Veterans groups showed up. Local mechanics volunteered. His shop reopened bigger than before. He hired back every employee, then he hired 5 more. Rivera Auto Services expanded to 3 service bays and became the highest-rated repair shop in the county. His daughters wrote school essays about courage. Alina framed the newspaper headline. Veteran defeats corrupt police chief. And for the first time in years, the Rivera family did not just survive. They breathed again. The other 15 victims each received $80,000. Some reopened their businesses. Some started over somewhere new. Some finally paid off debts that had haunted them for years. Together, they formed a legal advocacy group to help others targeted by corrupt authority. Their testimony helped change state laws, all because one man said no, all because he recorded everything. All because, in the end, arrogance met evidence. So remember this, a badge does not erase guilt, a uniform does not make corruption legal, a gun does not make a coward powerful, and a courtroom is not a kingdom. Robert Matthews spent 28 years building fear around his name. He believed people would always back down. He believed the poor could be pressured, the honest could be framed, and the truth could be buried under paperwork, threats, and planted evidence. But every corrupt system has a weak point. Every bully eventually pushes the wrong person. Every lie eventually meets a record button. Marcus Rivera did not defeat Matthews with violence. He did not defeat him with revenge. He defeated him with discipline, patience, and proof. And Judge Judy did what great judges do. She saw past the uniform. She saw the man underneath. And when that man exposed himself on camera, she did not hesitate. 8 words. That was all it took. Chief Matthews, you just destroyed your own career. If this story proves anything, it is that power without accountability is only corruption waiting to be exposed. And when truth finally walks into the room with evidence in its hands, even the loudest badge goes silent. Robert Matthews learned the lesson every abuser of power eventually learns. Someone will stand up. Someone will document. Someone will say no. And when that day comes, the fall is not gentle. It is public, it is permanent, and it echoes. 28 years of authority died in 28 seconds because justice does not care how powerful you think you are. Justice only waits for the truth to arrive.